Hey friends, Pastor Paul here, and I hope wherever you are that God's mercies, which Scripture says are new every morning, and His faithfulness is finding you where you are and meeting you where you are today. No matter what the circumstances are that you're facing, no matter how hard or good the day is, that you are seeing His goodness and His kindness at work in your life. And I just want to take a couple minutes just to give you some gospel encouragement out of the book of Mark. As I've been reading through that alongside of our Bible reading plan, there's just been so much that's been just jumping off the page to me. And one of those things comes from Mark chapter 8, and it says this: As they came to Bethsaida, some people brought to him, Jesus, a blind man, and he begged him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, he led him out of the village, and when he had spit on his eyes, he laid his hands on him, and he asked him, "Do you see anything?" It's important. And he looked up and said, "I see people, but they look like trees walking." Then Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again, and he opened his eyes. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. And there's so much from that passage that we could talk about, but I think it raises a really important question when we read it. And the question is this: why did it take Jesus 2 times to heal this man? So all the countless miracles that we see in the Gospels, most of them happen instantly when Jesus says something or does something. Why does it take 2 times for this to happen? We know it's not because he doesn't have the power to, or he struck out the first time. There must be a reason, and commentators have different ideas, but based on my study, I think this is what's happening here. This man represents physically what's happening in the lives of the Pharisees and the disciples spiritually. The Pharisees, they have the law, they have the prophets, but they are blind to the truth that Jesus actually is the Son of God, that he actually is the Messiah. They can't see. And the disciples, they have that same issue. They can't see and they don't know. But over the course of the gospel, they begin to see more. Instead of being blind, they get a glimmer. Instead of being able to see clearly, they kind of see what it looks like trees moving about. They have some pictures, but they're still, it's not all coming together for them. They don't have full sight yet of who Jesus is and why he's come. And I think that's a good word for us today from a couple different reasons. One, just our default as people with a sin nature and who tend to be bent toward our own pride and selfishness, we tend to not see things clearly, rightly, through God's eyes, an eternal perspective. And so one just really practical takeaway is we need to pray every day, Lord, help me to see. Help me to see my life, the lives around me, what you have in front of me today. Help me to see it from your point of view, through the lens of the gospel, through the lens of the Great Commission. Lord, help me to see rightly. But a second just application reality for us, which is really true for today and all the difficult things we're walking in, is sometimes we can't see in full until later on. It wasn't until after Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection that the disciples who came, the apostles, really could see what was happening. And for us in our lives, some of the things that are taking place right now in us, around us, in our jobs, in our communities, our families, we won't really be able to see in full until maybe a year, years, decades in the future, where we'll be able to look back and say, I could see God's hand in this. I could see God working in this. So I just want to encourage you, ask God for sight, but also trust that he will give you the sight when you need it on this side of eternity or the next. He loves you. He's good. And just remember, we only see in part, but he sees the whole. I love you guys. I'm praying for you. I'll talk to you soon.